You left.
Oh,
You blocked my number.
I needed space.
The apartment door slammed shut behind them with enough force to rattle the frame. Zainab's back hit the wall before she could catch her breath, and Seo Jun's mouth was on hers. Demanding, possessive, tasting like whiskey and something darker she couldn't name. His hands were already sliding under her shirt, fingers pressing into her ribs like he was trying to count every bone, memorize the architecture of her body so he could rebuild it later if she tried to run. You left, he said against her mouth, not a question but an accusation. His thumb traced the line of her jaw deceptively gentle. You blocked my number. I needed space. Her voice came out breathless, unconvincing even to her own ears. Space. He repeated the word like it was foreign, absurd. His hand slid to her throat, not squeezing, just resting there, a reminder of how easily he could. You don't get to decide that without me. She should have been afraid. Part of her was. But the larger part, the part that had walked away from Safata 3 months ago and never looked back, responded to the heat in his eyes with a pull so strong it felt like drowning. She'd known men who performed dominance, who played at danger because they thought women wanted it. Seo Jun wasn't performing. He was simply showing her what he was, and the honesty of it made her pulse spike in ways that had nothing to do with fear. You staged that break-in, she said, pushing the words out before she lost her nerve. I knew someone was coming for me and you let it happen. His expression didn't change. No guilt, no deflection. Yes, so I'd need you. Admission should have sent her running. Instead, she grabbed the front of his shirt and pulled him closer, kissing him hard enough to bruise. His response was immediate, hands tightening on her waist, lifting hair against the wall with enough force to make her gasp. This was the truth of them. She saw exactly what he was, and she chose him anyway. Not because she was naive. Because she was tired of men who lied about their need for control and called it chivalry. 3 months earlier, she'd been trying to escape exactly this kind of cage. Now she was walking into it with her eyes open, and some dark part of her wanted to see how far she could push before the bars closed completely. Detroit, in late autumn, felt like a city holding its breath. Zainab had been in the emergency clinic for 6 hours when they brought him in, a man with a knife wound that looked professional, clean, the kind of injury that came from someone who knew exactly where to cut. His people were calm, organized, paying in cash and asking no questions. She'd seen enough in 3 months to recognize what that meant. She worked on autopilot, cleaning the wound, prepping for stitches. Her hands were steady even though her pulse wasn't. The attending physician was already gone, muttering something about plausible deniability. That left her alone with the patient and 2 men who looked like they could break her in half without effort. The patient, Seo Jun, she'd learn later, watched her work with eyes that were too focused, too present. Most people in pain looked inward. He looked at her like she was a problem he was solving in real time. You're not afraid, he said. His voice was low, controlled despite the pain. Should I be? Most people would be. She met his gaze directly, something in her refusing to perform the fear he seemed to expect. I don't care what you do, I'm just here to stop you from bleeding out. One of his men stepped forward, a deliberate movement designed to intimidate. You're going to forget you Sawis here. Zainab's hands didn't stop moving, didn't even pause. She looked past the man to Seo Jun. I don't need to Bethridden. I don't care what you do. She meant it. After spending 23 years under her brother's surveillance, having every choice questioned and every risk calculated for her, the idea of caring about a stranger's criminal enterprise felt absurd. She had enough problems. Seo Jun smiled then, a real expression that didn't reach his eyes but seemed to recognize something in her. What's your name? Zainab. Korean. Half. My mother was Korean. My father was black. She didn't know why she was answering. Maybe because he asked like he actually wanted to know, not like he was cataloging her for some mental filing system. You! Same combination, different order. His eyes tracked her movements as she finished the stitches. You re good at this. I'm a nursing assistant, not a surgeon. You should have gone to a hospital. Hospitals ask questions. Do I? But you don't expect answers. He tilted his head slightly, studying her. That's rare. She taped the bandage in place and stepped back, pulling off her gloves. You're all set. Keep it clean, watch for infection. If it gets hot or starts draining, you need real medical attention. When's your next shift? The question caught her off guard. Why? Because I'm going to need a follow-up. You don't need a follow-up for this. Disagree. His smile widened slightly, still not reaching his eyes. I'll be back Thursday, make sure you're at her. It wasn't a request, she should have refused. Should have told her supervisor she wouldn't see him again. Should have recognized the danger in the way he looked at her, not like a nurse, but like something he'd decided to acquire. Instead, she nodded once and walked out, feeling his gaze on her back the entire way. He came back Thursday, and the following Tuesday, and again on Friday, each time with some minor complaint that didn't require medical attention. A headache, tension in his shoulder, insomnia. Zainab wasn't stupid enough to think these visits were about healthcare. "Wasting your money," she told him during the fourth visit, watching him lean against the exam table like own the space. "There's nothing wrong with you. I'm paying for your time. That's not a waste. What do you want? To talk to you." Considered the question with the same intensity he seemed to apply to everything. "Because you don't perform. Everyone I know is performing something. You're just here." It was possibly the strangest compliment she'd ever received. "I'm not interesting. You left somewhere to come here. You work night shifts at a clinic that doesn't ask questions. You live alone in an apartment you can barely afford. You're hiding from something." He said it like he was reading from a file, which made her stomach drop. "That's interesting. You looked into me." Of course I did. The casual admission should have terrified her. Instead, it sparked something close to anger. "You don't know anything about me. I know your brother calls you 17 times a day and you don't answer. I know you paint when you can't sleep. I know you're afraid of ending up like your mother, who had terrible taste in men." He paused, watching her reaction. "I know you're here because you're trying to prove you can make choices without someone deciding for you." Zainab's hands curled into fists. "Stay away from me." "No, excuse me. I'm not going to stay away from you." He said it simply, like he was stating a fact about the weather. "You're the first thing that's interested me in years. I'm not walking away from that. You don't get to decide." "I already did." Certainty in his voice made her pulse spike, half fear, half something she didn't want to examine. "This is insane." "Probably." He moved closer, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the heat radiating off him. "But you haven't told me to leave yet. You're still standing here, arguing with me. If you really wanted me gone, you'd walk out." He was right, and she hated that he was right. She should have left, should have called security. Should have done anything except stand there meeting his gaze like she was trying to find the bottom of whatever darkness lived behind those eyes. "Why me?" she asked finally. "Because you looked at me like you could see exactly what I am and you weren't impressed." Should I have been? Most people are. His hand came up slowly, giving her time to move away. When she didn't, he traced the line off her jaw with one finger, touch featherlight. "You're going to let me take you to dinner?" "That sounds like a threat." "It's an observation. I could report you for harassment." "You could." His thumb brushed across her lower lip and her breath caught despite herself. "But you won't." "Because you want to see what happens next." Zainab should have said no. Should have recognized this for what it was, a predator circling prey, testing boundaries, looking for weakness. But she'd spent her entire life being protected from danger by a brother Hawk couldn't see that his protection was its own form of prison. And this man, with his cold eyes and colder logic, was at least honest about what he wanted. "Friday," she heard herself say. 7 o'clock. "And if you've bugged my apartment or done anything else creepy, I'm gone." He smiled. And this time it almost reached his eyes. "I'll try to restrain myself." She knew he was lying. She went anyway. The restaurant was expensive, the kind of place where the staff recognized Seo Jun immediately and seated them in a private corner without being asked. Zainab felt underdressed in her simple black dress, but Seo Jun's gaze when he saw her suggested he didn't care about expensive fabric. "You look nervous," he said once they were seated. "I'm on a date with someone who stalked me for 3 weeks." "I think nervous is appropriate. Prefer to think of it as persistent interest." "You would." Waiter appeared with wine neither of them had ordered. Seo Jun must have called ahead. She wanted to be annoyed by the presumption, but the wine was good and she needed something to do with her hands. "Tell me about your brother," Seo Jun said once they were alone again. "No, not. Because that's why I'm here, to get away from him." "You haven't. Not really." He swirled his wine, watching her over the rim of the glass. "He calls constantly. He's tried to contact your landlord twice. He sent someone to watch your building last week." Her stomach dropped. "How do you know that?" "Because I had them removed." "You," she set her glass down carefully, trying to process. "You had someone watching my building, obviously. That's not normal, Seo Jun." "Never said it was." He leaned forward slightly, expression intent. "Your brother is trying to force you back home. I'm making sure he can't. I don't see the problem. The problem is you don't get to make decisions about my safety without asking me. Would you have said yes if I'd asked?" "That's not the point." "That's exactly the point." His voice remained level, reasonable, which somehow made it worse. "You want independence, but you don't want to accept what that requires. Your brother isn't going to stop. He thinks he's protecting you. Someone needs to protect you from him. You've decided that someone is you. Single-word answer should have ended the conversation, should have sent her running. Instead, she found herself asking, why? What do you get out of this? His expression shifted slightly, something almost uncertain crossing his features before he controlled it. I don't know yet. That's what makes it interesting. Honesty of it disarmed her. She'd expected manipulation, seduction, some calculated play for control. What she got instead was a man admitting he didn't understand his own motivations, and somehow that made him more dangerous. I can't do this if you're going to lie to me, she said finally. I haven't lied to you once. You staged a break-in. I didn't stage it. I knew it was going to happen, and I let it happen so I could be there when you needed help. He met her gaze steadily. That's not the same thing as lying, that's strategy. It's manipulation. But I told you about it when you asked, that's the difference. He reached across the table, fingers brushing her wrist. I'll tell you the truth when you ask for it. I won't volunteer information that would make you leave. Those are my terms. Those are terrible terms. They're honest terms. His thumb traced small circles on her pulse point, and she knew he could feel how fast their heart was beating. You grew up with someone who lied about control and called it love. I'm offering you control that admits what it is. You decide which is worse. Zainab stared at him, trying to find the trap in the logic. The problem was he was right. Hakeem controlled her life while insisting he was giving her freedom. Seo Jun controlled situations while admitting he was doing it. The honesty was almost refreshing, almost. I need to think, she said. Take your time. He signaled for the check, which appeared instantly. I'll drive you home. I can get an Uber. I'm driving you home. Not a question. I'm not letting you travel alone at night. That's not negotiable. She should have argued, should have insisted on independence. But the wine had softened her edges and she was tired of fighting battles on multiple fronts. Fine. Car was exactly what she expected. Expensive, dark, anonymous. They drove in silence for several minutes before Seo Jun spoke again. Your brother raised you after your mother couldn't. It wasn't a question, but she answered anyway. She kept choosing men who hurt her. He watched it happen over and over. He decided I wouldn't make the same mistakes. So he monitors your choices. Every single one. You chose me specifically because he'd hate it. Zainab turned to look at him, surprised by the insight. Maybe, definitely. His hands were steady on the wheel, expression unreadable in the darkness. Y'all wanted to prove you could make your own decisions, even if they're dangerous ones. I respect that. You should be warning me away from you. You already know what I am. You're here anyway. He glanced at her briefly. That's your choice. I'm just making sure you survive it. They pulled up in front of her building. Seo Jun killed the engine but didn't move to get out. The silence stretched between them, heavy with things neither of them was saying. I don't know what I'm doing, Zainab admitted finally. Neither do I, he turned to face her fully. But I know I'm not walking away, and I know you don't actually want me to. He was right again, and she hated it. Hated that he could read her so clearly when she'd spent years learning towhide. Hated that his certainty made her feel something close to safe, even though he was possibly the most dangerous person she'd ever met. I should go inside, she said. Yes. Neither of them moved. Seo Jun reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, his hand curved around the back off her neck, thumb brushing her jaw. I'm going to kiss you now. That's very presumptuous. You're still here. She was, and when he leaned in, she met him halfway, tasting wine and want and something darker that Shek knew she should run from. The kiss was controlled, deliberate, nothing rushed or desperate about it. He kissed like he did everything else, with absolute certainty about the outcome. When he pulled back, his eyes were darker than before. Go inside, Zainab. Why? Because if you don't, I'm going to follow you up and I'm not going to leave. And you're not ready for that yet. Presumption should have angered her. Instead, it sent heat pooling low in her stomach because he was right. She wasn't ready, but she wanted to be. That wanting scared her more than anything else he'd done. She got out of the car without another word and didn't look back until she was inside her building. When Sheffenly glanced through the lobby window, the car was still there. Seo Jun's silhouette visible behind the wheel, watching, always watching. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt seen 3 days later. Hakeem showed up at her apartment unannounced. Zainab knew something was wrong the moment she opened the door. Her brother stood in the hallway with that particular expression he got when he was trying to control his anger. Tight, eyes flat, every line of his body radiating disapproval. You didn't answer my calls, he said. Been busy. With him, not a question. Hakeem pushed past her into the apartment and she let him because arguing with him in the hallway would attract attention neither of them wanted. Don't lie to me, Zainab. I know you've been seeing someone. How? She stopped, realization dawning. You hired someone to watch me, keep you safe, to spy on me. It's the same thing. He turned to face her, and she was struck again by how much he looked like their father in old photographs. Same sharp features, same intensity. You came here to escape me, but you don't understand what you're doing. This city isn't safe. The men here aren't safe. You are. The words came out sharper than she intended. You track my location, monitor my calls, try to control who I see, because you have terrible judgment. His voice didn't rise, which somehow made it worse. Mom went through 6 relationships before she finally got clean, and every single one of those men hurt her. I watched it happen. I'm not watching it happen to you. Not Mom. You're exactly like her. You see danger and you run toward it because you think you can fix it. He moved closer, and she forced herself not to step back. This man you're seeing, do you even know who he is? What does? Do you? He's connected. That's all I need to know. Hakeem's hand came up like he was going to touch her shoulder, then dropped. Come home, please. I'll back off, I promise. Just come home where I can, where you can watch me every second of the day. Zainab's hands curled into fists. You followed me here across state lines. You hired someone to watch my building. You tried to get my landlord to evict me. Don't look surprised, I found out. You can't let me exist without you controlling it. Because you choose men who will destroy you. The words came out harsh, louder than he'd probably intended. I've seen this pattern your entire life. You find the worst possible option and you convince yourself it's fine because at least they're honest about being terrible. That's not honesty, Zainab, that's just giving up. Truth of it hit harder than she expected. She did have a pattern. She could see it clearly in hindsight. Every boyfriend had been someone Hakeem would hate, someone who represented rebellion more than genuine connection. But Seo Jun felt different. Dangerous, yes, but in a way that felt like choosing rather than reacting. You need to leave, she said quietly. No, not leaving you here alone with whatever criminal you've decided to attach yourself to this time. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling Dad. We're driving back tonight. Something in Zainab snapped. Years of surveillance, of being treated like she couldn't make a single decision without oversight, of watching her brother's protection slowly strangle every bit of independence she'd tried toppled. It all came crashing down at once. Get out. Her voice was low, shaking with fury. Get out of my apartment right now. Don't get to do this. You don't get to show up here and threaten to drag me home like I'm a child. She grabbed his arm, trying to physically push him toward the door even though he was twice her size. I left because of you, because I couldn't breathe with you watching every single thing I did. And you followed me, you can't even give me this. Hakeem's expression shifted, something that might have been hurt if he ever let himself show that kind of weakness. I'm trying to protect you. You're trying to own me. There's a difference. If something happens to you, then it happens, and it's my choice. She was shouting now, all the careful control she'd maintained for years dissolving. You don't get to prevent me from living just because you're afraid I'll make mistakes. I'd rather make mistakes than never make choices at all. Silence fell between them, heavy and painful. Hakeem looked at her like he was seeing someone he didn't recognize, and maybe he was. The little sister who'd listened to his advice, who'd accepted his protection, who'd let him shape her life, that person was gone. Choosing him, Hakeem said finally, over family. I'm choosing myself. He just happens to be part of that. He'll hurt you, maybe, but at least he won't pretend he's not doing it. Words hung in the air like a weapon. Hakeem's expression went carefully blank, the way it always did when she'd hit something true. Without another word, he turned and walked to the door. When this falls apart, he said without turning around, don't call me. I won't. He left. The door closed with a soft click that somehow felt louder than if he'd slammed it. Zainab stood in the center of her apartment, shaking with adrenaline and anger and something that felt uncomfortably close to grief. She'd never spoken to her brother like that before, had never stood her ground so completely. Victory should have felt better than this. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number, your brother just left. You okay, Seo Jun? Of course he was watching. Of course he knew. She typed back, how long have you been monitoring my apartment since the second date? You're angry, you're damn right I'm angry. Good. Anger looks better on you than fear. I'm outside if you need me. Zainab looked out her window. Sure enough, a dark car sat across the street, unmistakable even in the dim lighting. The surveillance should have terrified her, should have sent her running in the opposite direction. Instead, she grabbed her coat and headed downstairs. Seo Jun was leaning against his car when she emerged, expression unreadable. She walked up to him and slapped him hard enough that her palms stung. He didn't react, didn't even touch his face where a red mark was already forming. Feel better. No. She hit his chest with both hands, not hard enough to hurt, but enough to express the fury burning through her. You've been spying on me, listening to my conversations. You heard everything I said to my brother. Do you feel anything about that? Guilt, remorse, anything? He considered the question with his usual unsettling focus. No, I feel satisfied that I know more about the threats you're facing. I feel concerned that your brother's surveillance is more extensive than I initially calculated. I feel. He paused, something flickering across his features. Protective, when he raised his voice at you. Wanted to come up there, didn't you? Because you needed to fight that battle yourself. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing the corner of her mouth. But I was ready. If he'd touched you, if he'd tried to force you to leave, I would have intervened. That's insane. Probably. He pulled her closer, and she let him, hatting herself a little for how good it felt to be held. Your brother sees you as something to protect. I see you as something to keep. There's a difference. Sound like ownership. Treats you like you're fragile. The other treats you like you're valuable. His lips brushed her temple, voice low enough that she had to strain to hear it. I don't think you're fragile, Zainab. I think you're dangerous, and I want to see what happens when you stop apologizing for it. She pulled back enough to look at him. You're going to destroy me. Maybe, or maybe we'll destroy everything else together. His smile was sharp, almost predatory. Either way, be boring. She kissed him then, hard and angry and wanting, and he responded with an intensity that stole her breath. His hand slid down her back, pulling her flush against him, and she could feel his heartbeat, steady, controlled, nothing like her own frantic pulse. Take me inside, she said against his mouth. Yet. Not, because when I do, I'm not leaving, and you need to be sure. He pulled back, keeping her at arm's length even though she could see the want in his eyes. You just fought with your brother, your emotions are high. I'm not taking advantage of that. How noble of you. Not noble, I'm strategic. His thumb traced her lower lip, and she resisted the urge to bite it. When I take you to bed, I want you there because you've made a clear-headed choice, not because you're angry at your brother and I'm convenient. If I'm never clear-headed around you, then we have a problem. His expression softened slightly, something almost vulnerable in his eyes. I need you to want this, really want it, not as rebellion, not as escape me. Admission surprised her. She'd expected calculation, manipulation, control. What she got instead washonesty so raw it almost hurt to hear. I do want you, she said quietly. That's what scares me. Good, fear means you're paying attention. He kissed her forehead, gentle in a way that contrasted sharply with everything else about him. Go upstairs, get some sleep. I'll be here if you need me. You're not coming up. Not tonight. What if I asked you to? I'd say no, because I'm trying very hard to do the right thing here and you're making it difficult. His voice dropped lower. And because if I come upstairs right now, I'm not going to be gentle, and you deserve better than that for your first time with me. The words sent heat through her despite the cold air. She wanted to argue, to insist she could handle whatever it gave her. But something in his expression told her he was holding on to his control by a thread, and pushing him now would be dangerous. Tomorrow, she said. Tomorrow. He kissed her once more, soft and promising. Now go inside before I change my mind. She went, but she felt his eyes on her the entire way. And when she looked out her window 20 minutes later, his car was still there. Watching. Waiting, keeping her safe from everything except himself. The next week passed in a blur of tension. Seo Jun came by every day, sometimes just to bring her coffee, sometimes to drive her to work, always finding reasons to be close. He didn't push for more than she offered, but his presence was constant, unavoidable. She couldn't go anywhere without feeling his attention on her Lycia physical weight. Hakeem called 17 times. She didn't answer. He texted, each message growing more frustrated. We need to talk. You can't avoid me forever. I'm not giving up on you. Fine. Do what you want. But when it falls apart, remember I tried. She blocked his number after that last message, something she'd never had the courage to do before. It should have felt liberating. Instead, it felt like cutting off a limb, painful, necessary, possibly permanent. Thinking about him, Seo Jun said one night. They were in his car again, parked outside her building after he'd picked her up from work. This was becoming routine. This in-between space where they sat and talked and carefully didn't address the thing building between them. He's my brother. I can't just stop thinking about him. You could. No, I couldn't, and neither could you if you had siblings. She turned to face him. Do you have siblings? A brother, older. Something dark flickered across his expression. He's successful, legitimate, everything me mother wanted me to be. You're not. I tried for a while, it didn't work. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, a rare display of restlessness. I'm better at this. Strategy, control, reading people, legal work bored me. This doesn't. Your family know. My mother suspects. My father knows and pretends he doesn't. His smile was bitter. They think I'll grow out of it, that I'll eventually want the life my brother has, wife, kids, respectable job. You don't. I want. He trailed off, seeming to struggle with the words. I want to feel something, anything. Most of the time, I'm just flat, bored, going through the motions, and then you showed up and suddenly I wasn't bored anymore. Honesty in his voice made her chest tight. That's a lot of pressure. I know, I'm sorry. You don't sound sorry. I'm not really. He reached over, fingers tangling with hers. But I am aware that using you to feel something is probably not healthy. Probably not. You going to run? She should have recognized this for what it was, a man admitting he was using her as an emotional crutch, that his interest in her was at least partially about filling his own void. But there was something in his voice, some thread of vulnerability that made her stay. Yet, she said, the danger outweighs the honesty. His hand tightened on hers. It already does. Then I'm a bad judge of risk. Brother was right about that. Don't. She pulled her hand back, suddenly angry. Don't side with him. Don't pretend you agree with him when you are doing the exact same thing he is. Not doing the same thing. You're watching me constantly. You've installed surveillance. You track my movements. You make decisions about my safety without asking me. How is that different? Because I tell you I'm doing it. His voice was level, infuriatingly calm. Your brother operates in secret and calls it protection. I operate in the open and call it control. At least you know what you're getting with me. That doesn't make it better, doesn't it? He leaned closer, and she could smell his cologne, expensive, subtle, maddeningly familiar now. You stayed with your brother's surveillance for years because you didn't know the extent of it. You stay with mine because you do. That's called informed consent. That's called manipulation. Both things can be true. His hand slid up her arm, fingers circling her wrist. I'm manipulating you by being honest about manipulating you. It's a paradox, but it's also the truth. Zainab stared at him, trying to find the flaw in his logic. The problem was he was right. She didn't know what she was getting into. He'd been clear from the beginning about who he was and what he wanted, and she'd chosen to stay anyway. I should go inside, she said. Running. Thinking. You're running. You do this every time we get close to something real. His grip tightened slightly on her wrist, not painful, but enough to make his point. You want honesty. Here it is, I'm obsessed with you. I think about you constantly. I've rearranged my entire schedule around your shifts at the clinic. I've turned down work because it would take me away from this city. You've become a problem I can't solve, and instead of walking away like I should, I'm leaning into it. That's the truth. Now you give me something real back. Intensity in his voice should have scared her. Instead, it pulled something loose in her chest, something she'd been holding back since the night they met. I want you, she admitted. I want you so much it scares me. I know you're dangerous. I know you're using me to feel something. I know this is probably going to end badly. But when I'm with you, I feel like I can breathe, like I'm making choices instead of having them made for me, even if the choice is dangerous, even if it's wrong. Seo Jun's expression shifted, something raw and unguarded crossing his features before he controlled it. Come upstairs with me. Place. Your place. Mine has too many people. He released her wrist, giving her space to refuse. Or not, your choice. But I need you to decide right now, because if we keep sitting here, I'm going to kiss you, and if I kiss you, I'm not going to stop. Zainab's pulse was racing so hard she could feel it in her throat. This was the moment. The point where she either committed to this thing between them or walked away while she still could. She thought about Hakeem, about his certainty that she was making a mistake. About her mother, about patterns of destruction. About every warning sign she was willfully ignoring. Then she thought about how it felt when Seo Jun looked at her, like she was the most fascinating problem he'd ever encountered. Like she mattered. Like she was worth obsessing over. Okay, she said. Upstairs. He was out of the car and opening her door before she finished the sentence. They walked to her building in silence, tension crackling between them like static electricity. She fumbled with her keys, hands shaking, and headhooked them from her gently, unlocking the door with steady fingers. Inside, she barely had time to turn on the lights before he was on her, backing her against the door, mouth claiming hers with an intensity that made her knees weak. His hands were everywhere, tangling in her hair, sliding under her shirt, mapping her body like he was memorizing it. Tell me to stop, he said against her mouth, even as his hands kept moving. If you want me to stop, tell Menno. Don't stop. His response was immediate, lifting her, carrying her to the bedroom like she weighed nothing. They fell onto the bed together, all careful control abandoned. She pulled at his shirt, needing to feel skin, needing to confirm he was real and solid and here. Zainab. Her name on his lips sounded like a prayer, like a curse. His hands were gentle despite the urgency, checking for permission with every touch. You're sure? I'm sure. What followed was intense, overwhelming, nothing like she'd expected and everything she'd wanted. He was demanding but attentive, taking her apart with methodical precision and putting her back together, marked by his touch. When it was over, they lay tangled together, breathing hard, and she felt like she'd crossed some invisible line she could never uncross. That was, she trailed off, lacking words. Yeah. His hand traced patterns on her back, touch almost absent-minded. It was. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, and the knowledge that everything had just changed. Eventually, Seo-jun pulled back enough to look at her. I need to tell you something, he said, her stomach dropped. What? There's a situation. With some people I used to work with, it's getting complicated and they know about Yaono. What kind of situation? The kind that might put you at risk. His expression was serious, all trace of post-sex softness gone. I've been handling it, but you need to be aware. Your brother isn't the only person watching you anymore. Fear spiked through her, cold and sharp. Are you saying I'm in danger? I'm saying you might be. I'm taking precautions. What kind of precautions? Additional surveillance. People I trust watching your building, limiting your exposure to situations I can't control. He said it like it was reasonable, like increasing his control over her life was the obvious solution. It's temporary until I resolve this. You should have told me before. She gestured at the bed at them. Before this. Would you have said no? That's not the point. That's exactly the point. He sat up and she hated that even now, even angry, she was distracted by the lines off his body. You need to know what you're getting into. This is my world. It's dangerous. People get hurt. And being with me makes you a target. Then maybe I shouldn't be with you. Something dark flashed in his eyes. Too late for that. What does that mean? It means you're mine now. He said it simply, like stating a fact. I'm not letting you go. And I'm not letting Gagnon hurt you. Those are the terms. You don't get to decide. I already did. He leaned in, gripping her chin gently but firmly. You made your choice when you let me in here. Now you deal with the consequences. I'll keep you safe. I'll be honest with you when you ask. But I'm not walking away, and I'm not letting you walk away either. Understand? She should have been terrified. Should have recognized this for what it was, a man claiming ownership, drawing boundaries she didn't agree to. But looking into his eyes, seeing the absolute certainty there, she felt something shift inside her. This was who he was. This was what she'd chosen. I understand, she said quietly. Good. He kissed her, softer this time. Get some sleep. I'll be here. You're staying? I told you I wasn't leaving. He pulled her back down against his chest, arm wrapped around her waist like a cage. Go to sleep, Zainab. She should have argued. Should have insisted on her independence, on her right to make decisions about her own safety. Instead, she closed her eyes and let herself be held, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her cheek. Outside, she knew her brother was probably still trying to reach her. And somewhere out there, people she'd never met were watching, calculating, planning. But right now, in this moment, she felt safe, even knowing it was a lie, even knowing the danger was already inside the room with her. She felt safe. The crisis came 2 weeks later. Zainab was leaving the clinic after a late shift when she noticed the car. It wasn't Seo-jun's, wrong make, wrong color, but it was following her with the same deliberate patience his surveillance team used. Her pulse spiked. She pulled out her phone, texted Seo-jun. Someone's following me. Not yours. The response came within seconds. Get inside the clinic. Now. Don't leave until I get there. She turned back, but the car sped up, cutting her off. 2 men got out, professional, calm, exactly like the men who'd brought Seo-jun to the clinic months ago. But their energy was different. Harder. MS, Park, one of them said. We need you to come with us. Not going anywhere. We're not asking. He moved closer and she saw the gun tucked into his waistband. Our employer wants to talk to you about Seo-jun. Zainab's mind raced. She could scream, but the street was empty at this hour. She could run, but she wasn't fast enough. Could fight, but she'd lose. What does your employer want? To send a message. The man smiled, and it was cold, empty. You're the message. Before she could respond, a car screeched around the corner. Seo-jun's, moving too fast, barely stopping before it hit the other vehicle. He was out in seconds, gun drawn, face completely devoid of expression. Step away from her, he said, voice flat and cold. Seo-jun. The man didn't move. We were just having a conversation. I can see what you were having. He moved closer, putting himself between Zainab and the threat. You have 3 seconds to get in your car and leave. What, you'll shoot us in the middle of the street? Yes. The single-word answer, delivered with absolute certainty, made the men hesitate. Zainab saw the calculation in their faces, weighing whether Seo Jun was bluffing, whether this was worth dying over. This isn't finished, one of them said finally. Yes, it is. Seo Jun's gun didn't waver. Tell Marcus if he comes after her again. I'll burn everything he owns, too. The ground, that's not a threat, that's information. Men got back in their car and left, but slowly, deliberately, making it clear they weren't afraid. Zainab stood frozen, shaking with adrenaline, trying to process what had just happened. Seo Jun holstered his gun and turned to her. Get in the car. What? Get in the fucking car, Zainab. His voice was sharp, controlled fury barely contained. We need to leave. Now, she got in. He drove fast, checking the mirrors constantly, taking random turns that suggested he was watching for tails. They ended up at a house she didn't recognize, large, isolated, surrounded by high walls. Where are we? She asked as he pulled into the garage. Somewhere safe. He killed the engine and turned to face her. You're staying here until this is resolved. How long? As long as it takes. Seo Jun, I have work. I called your supervisor. You're on leave. He said it like it was already decided. You're not going back to that apartment. You're not going anywhere alone. You're staying here where I can protect you. You can't just make those decisions for me. I can, and I did. He got out of the car, came around to her side. This is what protection looks like, Zainab. It's not pretty, it's not convenient, but it's necessary. She wanted to argue, to insist on her independence, but fear was still racing through her veins, the memory off those men and their cold eyes too fresh. What did they want? To leverage me. You're my weakness now. Everyone knows it. He pulled her out of the car, gentle despite Hisarlier harshness. I'm handling it, but you need to stay here, please. Please surprised her. She'd expected demands, orders, control. What she got instead was vulnerability, Ammon who just faced the prospect of losing her and was barely holding it together. "'Kay," she said quietly. He exhaled, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "Come inside. I'll explain everything." House was expensive but impersonal, the kind of place that was rarely lived in. He led her to a living room and poured them both drinks, hands steady despite everything that had just happened. Marcus is someone I used to work with, he said. We had a disagreement about territory. I thought it was resolved. Clearly, it's not. So he tried to kidnap me. Tried to send a message. If he'd actually wanted to take you, there would have been more men. Seo Jun downed his drink in one swallow. But he's escalating, which means I need to escalate too. What does that mean? It means this ends. Permanently. His expression was cold, controlled. I'm going to make sure he never comes after you again. You don't want to know. I do. He looked at her for a long moment, seeming to weigh something. I'm going to destroy his operation. Hissing cum streams, his connections, his reputation. I'm going to make it impossible for him to function in this city, and if that doesn't work, I'm going to kill him. Casual way, he said it made her stomach drop. Seo Jun, this is who I am. He set the glass down, moved closer. I told you that from the beginning. I'm not a good man. I don't have moral boundaries. When someone threatens what's mine, I remove them. That's how I operate. I'm not yours. Yes, you are. He gripped her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. You've been mine since the night you let me into your apartment, since you chose me over safety, since you looked at me and decided the danger was worth it. You don't get to take that back now. She should have been afraid of him. Should have seen this for what it was, possessive, dangerous, potentially deadly. But looking into his eyes, seeing the desperation under the control, she understood something fundamental. He wasn't threatening her. He was threatening everyone else. When will this be over? She asked. Soon. I'm meeting with some people tomorrow, setting things in motion. His thumb brushed her cheek. You'll stay here. My people will watch the house. You'll be safe. I'll be fine. That's not what I asked. Something shifted in his expression. I'll be careful. Promise me. Can't promise that. Seo Jun, I can't promise I'll be careful because being careful might mean letting you get hurt, and I won't do that. His face was rough, more emotion in it than she'd ever heard. If it comes down to a choice between my safety and yours, I'm choosing yours every time. That's not negotiable. Tears stung her eyes, though she wasn't sure why. Maybe because he was offering her something protection, devotion, obsession, that was completely wrong and completely real at the same time. This is insane. I know. Barely know each other. I know. This isn't love. It's worse. He pulled her against him, holding her tight enough to hurt. Love would give you a choice. They stood like that for a long time, wrapped together, both knowing that whatever this was between them had passed the point of control. She'd chosen danger. He'd chosen obsession. Neither of them knew how to stop. Finally, Seo Jun pulled back. Get some sleep. Guest room is upstairs, second door on the left. Where will you be? Working. I have calls to make. He kissed her forehead, gentle. Lock the door if it makes you feel safer. Would that stop you? No, but I wouldn't come in unless you asked me to. It was possibly the most honest thing he'd ever said to her. She went upstairs, found the guest room, expensive, impersonal, like everything else in this house. She locked the door anyway, knowing it was performative, knowing he could get in if he wanted. But she also knew he wouldn't. That was the difference between him and her brother. Seo Jun controlled through honesty. He told her exactly what he was doing and let her choose to stay. It was manipulation, yes, but it was transparent manipulation. And somehow that made all the difference. She lay in bed, listening to his voice drifting up from downstairs, low, controlled, making arrangements she couldn't quite hear. Planning violence, protecting her, she should have called Hakeem. Should have admitted he was right, that she'd made a terrible mistake. But thought of his I told you so, his certainty that he knew best made her stomach turn. At least Seo Jun thought she was worth fighting for. Even if the fight itself was wrong, she woke to the sound of her phone ringing, Hakeem's old number, the one she'd blocked. Which meant Hugh was calling from somewhere else, determined to reach her. She answered without thinking. Hello, Zainab. His voice was tight, controlled. Are you safe? How did you? I have people watching you too. I know you're not at your apartment. I know you left with him last night. I know something happened. A pause. Talk to me. She should have hung up. Should have maintained the boundary she'd set. But hearing his voice, hearing the genuine concern under the anger made something crack in her chest. Someone tried to take me, she said quietly. Seo Jun's people. Enemies, I mean, they wanted to use me against him. Silence. Then, where are you now? Somewhere safe. His house. That's not safe, Zainab. That's a cage. His voice was urgent now, pleading. Let me come get you. Please, we can figure this out. You don't have to stay with him. I want to stay with him. You want to believe you want to stay with him. There's a difference. She heard him take a breath, steadying himself. You're doing what Mom did. You're finding reasons to excuse dangerous behavior because... The alternative is admitting you made a mistake. This is different. It's not different, it's the exact same pattern. He was losing his composure now, voice rising. You meet Somyeon dangerous. They isolate you. They make you dependent on them for protection from threats they created. And you convince yourself it's love because they're honest about how terrible they are. Didn't create this threat. He created the situation that made you a target. That's the same thing. A pause. I'm coming to get you. Zainab, I said no. Her hands were shaking. You don't get to make that choice. I'm staying. I'm making this choice even though you think it's wrong. It is wrong. Maybe, but it's mine. She took a shaky breath. I love you, but I can't live under your surveillance anymore. I can't keep having this argument where you think you know better than me about my own life. I do know better. His voice broke slightly. I've watched this destroy Mom over and over. I'm not watching it destroy you. Then don't watch. Let me go. Silence stretched between them, painful and vast. When Hakeem spoke again, his voice was cold, controlled. Fine, I'm done. But when this falls apart, and it will, don't come crying to me. I won't. I mean it, Zainab. You want to make this choice, then own it. Don't come back when he hurts you. The words stung more than she expected. Okay. He hung up without another word. Zainab sat on the bed, phone still pressed to her ear, feeling like she just severed something vital. Her brother had been a constant her entire life, annoying, controlling, but always there. Now he was gone. She'd pushed at him away. She'd chosen Seo Jun over family. A knock at the door startled her. Zainab, you okay? She opened the door. Seo Jun stood there, already dressed, looking like he'd been up for hours. His eyes went immediately to the phone in her hand, then to her face. Your brother, he said, not a question. Yeah, and he's done with me. She set the phone down, hands still shaking. I told him I was staying with you. He said not oh come back when you hurt me. Seo Jun's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. He's not wrong. What? I am going to hurt you, eventually. He moved closer, touched gentle despite his words. I'm going to be too controlling or too violent or too honest about something you don't want to know, and you're going to realize your brother was right, that I'm exactly the kind of person you should have avoided. Then why are you telling me this? Because I need you to know what you're staying for, not an illusion, not hope that I'll change me, exactly as Eam. His hand cupped her face. I'm giving you one more chance to walk away. After this, I'm not letting you go. Zainab stared at him, seeing all of it clearly, the danger, the obsession, the absolute certainty that this would end badly, and she stayed anyway. I'm not walking away, she said. His smile was sharp, relieved. Good, because I have something to tell you. Meeting with Marcus today, neutral location, his terms. He said it casually, like he was discussing the weather. It's probably a trap. Her stomach dropped. Then don't go. I have to. This doesn't end unless one of us forces it to. He brushed hair back from her face. But I need you, Tano, if something happens to me. Nothing's going to happen. If something happens, he continued, voice firm, my lawyer has instructions. Money, protection, everything you need, you'll be taken care of. I don't want your money, I want you not to die. Then you'll be happy if I don't. He kissed her, soft and brief. Stay here, don't leave the house, I'll call Yao when it's done. Seo Jun, I love you. The words came out abruptly, like they surprised him. I don't know what that means or if I even feel it the way normal people do. But whatever this is, this obsession, this need, it's the closest thing I have Tal of, and I need you to know that. Before she could respond, he was gone. Zainab stood in the empty hallway, heart pounding, trying to process what he just said. He loved her, or thought he did, or wanted to, and he was walking into what might be a trap. She waited 20 minutes, then she called her brother. What? His voice was flat, hostile. Need your help. Silence. Then, you said you were done with me. I lied, or I was wrong, I don't know. She took a breath. Seo Jun's meeting with someone who wants to kill him. I need you to help me keep him alive. Why would I do that? Because he's mine. And despite everything, despite how angry you are, you still care about what happens to him. Her voice cracked. Please, Hakeem, I can't lose him. More silence. She could almost hear him thinking, weighing options, calculating risk. Where's the meeting? He asked finally, she told him. He hung up without promising anything, but 20 minutes later her phone buzzed with a text. I'm heading there now. Don't do anything stupid. She smiled despite everything. Because that was her brother, still protecting her even when he was furious with her, still showing up even when he thought she was making a mistake, still loving her even when she didn't deserve it. The warehouse was outside the city, industrial and abandoned. Seo Jun arrived exactly on time, alone as requested. Marcus was waiting with 3 men, not an overwhelming force, but enough to make a point. Seo Jun. Marcus smiled, cold and professional. Thanks for coming. You threatened someone I care about. We need to resolve that. Resolve, Marcus laughed. Is that what we're calling it? I'm calling it a negotiation. You can call it whatever you want. Seo Jun's hands stayed loose at his sides, ready. What do you want? For you to understand that you don't get to operate in my territory without consequences. I haven't been in your territory in 6 months. You exist in my territory. That's enough. Marcus moved closer, confident. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave Detroit. Take your woman, go somewhere else, and we're done. Happening. Then we have a problem. We've always had a problem. The question is whether we resolve it professionally or not. Seo Jun's voice stayed level. You take another run at her, I destroy everything you've built. You leave her alone, we coexist. Those are your options. Marcus laughed again, but there was an edge to it now. You're outnumbered, making threats. Either you rest stupid or you're bluffing. Neither. I'm stating facts. Seo Jun's expression didn't change. You should know I'm not here alone. Don't see anyone. That's the point. From the rafters, 2 of Seo Jun's people, positioned perfectly for covering fire. Marcus's men reached for weapons, but Seo Jun raised a hand. Nobody moves. This doesn't have to get violent. You brought backup to a negotiation. You brought 3 armed men, I'd say we're even. Seo Jun's smile was sharp. Now, do we have understanding? Before Marcus could answer, the warehouse doors burst open. Hakeem entered with calculated precision, gun drawn, moving like someone with tactical training. He took in the situation instantly, Seo Jun outnumbered on the ground, shooters in the rafters, Marcus's men reaching for weapons. Nobody shoot, Hakeem said, voice carrying authority. I'm just here to even the odds. Seo Jun's expression flickered, surprise, confusion, calculation. What are you doing here? My sister asked me to keep you alive. Hakeem positioned himself at an angle that covered both Seo Jun and Marcus's men. Apparently she cares about you. God knows why. Sister, Seo Jun started. Yeah, she called me. Hakeem's eyes never left Marcus. So here's how this works. You leave him alone, you leave her alone, and everyone gets to walk out of here, or we have a shootout that nobody wins, your choice. Marcus looked between them, weighing options. You 2 are working together now. No, they said simultaneously. We just happen to want the same thing, Hakeem added. His survival, her safety. Same outcome, different motivations. Standoff held for a long moment. Then Marcus laughed, genuine this time. This is insane. Agreed, Seo Jun said. Fine, she's off limits, you're off limits, but you owe me for this. I owe you nothing. You owe me for not starting a war in the middle of this warehouse. Marcus gestured to his men. We're leaving, but this conversation isn't finished. It is, Hakeem said quietly. Because if you come after either of them again, you'll have to deal with me. And I promise you I'm much less reasonable than he is. Marcus's eyes narrowed. Who are you? Her brother, that's all you need to know. They left, Marcus and his men backing out slowly, weapons still ready. Seo Jun's shooters stayed in position until the warehouse was clear. Then silence fell, heavy and strange. Seo Jun turned to Hakeem. You didn't have to do that. I know. Did you? Because my sister loves you. And despite everything I think about you, despite how much I want her away from you, she made her choice. Hakeem lowered his gun but didn't holster it. I'm not here for you, I'm here for her. Understood. They stared at each other, two men who hated each other united only by caring about the same woman. Finally, Hakeem spoke again. You hurt her, I kill you, not a threat, information. If I hurt her, you can try. Seo Jun's voice was flat, but I'm not planning on it. Nobody ever plans on it. Hakeem moved toward the door, then stopped. She thinks you love her. I do. Do you even know what that means? No, but I'm trying to figure it out. Seo Jun's expression was unguarded for once. I know I'd die for her. I know I'd kill for her. If that's not love, it's close enough. Hakeem studied him for a long moment. That's not love. That's obsession. Again, close enough. Something that might have been grudging respect flickered across Hakeem's face. Take care of her. Always. Hakeem left without another word. Seo Jun stood alone in the warehouse, processing what had just happened. Zainab had called her brother. Despite their fight, despite her insistence on independence, she'd reached out to one person she'd cut off for him to save him. He pulled out his phone, called her. She answered on the first ring. Are you okay? Her voice was breathless, frightened. I'm fine, thanks to your brother. Showed up. Yeah, apparently you asked him to keep me alive. His voice softened slightly. You called him. I had to, I couldn't. She took a shaky breath. I couldn't lose you. You're not going to lose me. He started walking toward his car. I'm coming to get you, we need to talk. About what? About what happens next. They sat in his car outside the warehouse, neither speaking for several minutes. Finally, Seo Jun broke the silence. Your brother saved my life today. I know. Hates me. I know. He came anyway, because you asked him to. Seo Jun turned to face her. Do you understand what that means? It means he loves me. Means he's never going to stop protecting you, even from me, even when you tell him to stop. His hand found hers. And I'm never going to stop either, which means we're stuck in this triangle forever, you, me, and your brother, all trying to control the situation for different reasons. I know. You're okay with that? She looked at him, really looked at him, seeing all of it clearly. The danger, the obsession, the absolute certainty that this would never be simple or easy or normal. I don't know if I'm okay with it, but I'm choosing it anyway. Why? Because when I'm with you, I feel like myself, even when it's dangerous, even when it's wrong. She squeezed his hand. My brother makes me feel safe, but he also makes me feel like I can't be trusted with my own life. You make me feel capable, even when you're being controlling. That's a low bar. It's my bar. She leaned in, kissing him softly. I'm staying, I'm choosing you, but I'm not cutting my brother out completely. He proved today that he still cares, even when he's angry. I need both of you in my life. That's going to be complicated. I know, he's never going to approve. I know, I'm never going to let you go. I know that too. She pulled back, meeting his eyes. Can you live with that? Relationship where my brother is always watching, always waiting for you to prove him right. Seo Jun considered the question seriously. Yes, because the alternative is losing you, and I'm not doing that. Even though he'll never trust you. Trust is overrated. Respect is better. He started the car. Your brother and I came to an understanding today. We both want you safe. We both want you happy. We're just coming at it from different angles. That's not the same as getting along. But it's enough. He pulled out of the parking lot, heading back toward the city. We're not going to be friends. We're not going to have family dinners, but we proved we can work together when it matters. That's something. Zainab leaned back against the seat, processing. Her brother and her lover locked in a permanent standoff over her safety and her choices. It should have felt suffocating. Instead, it felt like balance, like two opposing forces holding her upright instead of pulling her apart. Where are we going? She asked. Your apartment. You need clothes, belongings, then we're going back to my place. How long? As long as you'll stay. His hand tightened on the wheel. I'm not asking you to move in. I'm asking you to consider it eventually. That's very presumptuous. I'm a presumptuous person. He glanced at her, something almost vulnerable in his expression. I want Yao clothes. I want to wake up with you. I want to know where you are and that you're safe. If that's too much, tell Menno. She should have said it was too much. Should have insisted on maintaining her own space, her own independence. But the truth was she wanted it too. Wanted to be close to him, wanted to stop fighting the pull between them. Hey, she said quietly. Stay with you, we'll figure out the details later. She reached over, taking his hand. But I'm keeping my apartment as insurance. Insurance against what? Against the day when this stops working. She said it gently, not cruel, just realistic. I love you, but I also know Thighs is fragile, and I need to know I have somewhere to go if it breaks. He nodded slowly. That's fair. They drove in silence for a while, comfortable now, the tension from earlier finally easing. When they reached her building, Seo-jun parked but didn't get out immediately. I meant what I said earlier, he told her. About loving you. I know, I'm not good at it. I don't know how to be gentle or patient or any of the things you probably deserve. His voice was rough, uncertain in a way that was rare for him. But I'm trying for you. I know that too. She leaned over, kissing him softly. I love you. Even though you're terrible at relationships and you're way too controlling and you solve problems with violence. Those are pretty significant flaws. Yeah, but they're your flaws, and I'm choosing them anyway. She pulled back, smiling slightly. Come on, help me pack. 6 months later, Zainab stood in the kitchen of Seo-jun's house, their house now, she supposed, making coffee and watching the sunrise through the window. She'd been living here for 4 months, and it still felt surreal sometimes. This life she'd built with a man who was objectively dangerous, objectively wrong for her, objectively everything her brother had warned her about. And yet, her phone buzzed. Text from Hakeem. She left a note
You good?
for
She
Seo-jun.
smiled,
Typing
he'd be
back,
up soon,
yeah,
and he'd worry if she wasn't there,
and
20
drove to the
minutes.
diner where she and Hakeem met once a week. It had become routine, this careful dance they did. He checked on her. She assured him she was fine. Neither of them mentioned Seo-jun unless necessary. He was already there when she arrived, coffee ordered, sitting in their usual booth. He looked tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well. Hey, she said, sliding in across from him. Hey, he pushed a coffee toward her. You look good. I am good. With him, not a question, not quite approval, just acknowledgement. Yeah, with him. She took a sip of coffee, studying her brother. You still hate this. Every day, but his voice lacked heat. But you're happy, I can see that, so I'm dealing with it. That must be hard for you. You have no idea. He managed a small smile. He's not as terrible as I expected. High praise. It's the best you're getting. Hakeem leaned back, expression serious. I saw him last week. We had a conversation. Her stomach dropped. About what? About you, about his intentions, about what happens if things get worse with his work. He held up a hand before she could protest. I didn't threaten him. Much. I just wanted to understand what his plan is for keeping you safe. And he has one, a detailed one, multiple contingencies. Hakeem's expression was grudgingly impressed. He's serious about protecting you, I'll give him that. I told you. I know what you told me. I needed to see it for myself. He looked at her directly. I'm never going to like him, Zainab. I'm never going to think this is a good idea, but I can see that he cares about you, in his own messed up way. Tears stung her eyes unexpectedly. That means a lot. Don't get emotional, I'm still watching both of you. But his voice was gentle. I'm trying to respect your choices, even when I think they're wrong. I know, thank you. They talked for another hour. About work, about family, about everything except the elephant in the room. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't forgiveness or approval, but it was something. When she got home, Seo-jun was in his office on the phone. He looked up when she entered, expression softening slightly. He wrapped up the call quickly. How's your brother? He asked. He's trying. That's more than I expected. He pulled her into his lap, and she went easily, settling against him. He cornered me last week, wanted to know my plans for keeping you safe. He told me. Did he tell you what I said? No. I told him I'd burn the entire city down before I let anything happen to you. His hand traced patterns on her back. He seemed satisfied with that answer. You're both insane. Probably. He kissed her neck, soft and distracting. But we're your brand of insane, that's what matters. She laughed despite herself. This is the weirdest relationship dynamic I've ever heard of. You and me, or you, me, and your brother. All of it, she turned to face him, but it's ours and it works somehow. Because you made it work. His expression was serious now. You're the one holding this together. Me and your brother, we'd kill each other without you in the middle. Probably. Definitely, he pulled her closer. I have something to tell you. Her stomach tightened. Good something or bad something? Neutral something. He paused. Marcus reached out, wants to meet again, says he has a business proposition. Is that safe? I'm bringing your brother as backup, just in case. He said it casually, like it was normal for your girlfriend's brother to provide security for your criminal meetings. He's surprisingly competent. Don't tell him that. His ego is big enough. Too late, I already told him. Seo Jun's smile was slight but genuine. We're not friends, but we're functional, that's enough. Zainab settled against him, processing. This was her life now, negotiating peace between two men who both wanted to control her for different reasons, walking the line between danger and safety, building something real in the space between chaos and structure. It shouldn't have worked. But it did. I'm pregnant, she said quietly. Seo Jun went completely still beneath her. What? I found out yesterday. I was going to tell you tonight, but... She pulled back to look at him. Surprise. His expression was unreadable. Shock, fear, something that might have been joy if he knew how to express it. You're sure? Took 3 tests, all positive. And you want to? Keep it if you're okay with that. She watched his face carefully. I know this is fast. I know we haven't talked about this, but I want this baby, even if you don't. I want it. The words came out rough, certain. I want you, I want this, I want... He stopped, seeming overwhelmed. I don't know how to be a father. I don't know how to be a mother. We'll figure it out together. She took his hand, placed it on her still flat stomach. We're good at figuring things out. He pulled her close, holding her tight enough to hurt, and she felt wetness against her neck that might have been tears. I'm going to be terrible at this. Probably, but you'll try. She held him back just as tightly. That's all I need. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped together, processing the weight of what this meant. A child, a future, something permanent that bound them together beyond obsession or choice. Your brother is going to lose his mind, Seo Jun said finally. Yeah, probably, she laughed, the sound watery. But he'll show up anyway, for me, for the baby. I know. He pulled back, wiping his eyes quickly like he was embarrassed by the display of emotion. We should tell him together. You want to be there when I tell Hakeem I'm pregnant with your baby. I want to see his face. His smile was sharp. And I want him to know that I'm committed to this, to you, to the family we're building. Even though it's insane. Especially because it's insane. He kissed her softly. This is our life. Complicated, dangerous, held together by sheer force of will, but it's ours. She kissed him back, tasting salt and certainty and the promise of something she'd never expected to want. A life built on honest chaos. A relationship held together by 2 men who hated each other but loved her enough to coexist. A future that should have been impossible but somehow wasn't. Okay, she said against his mouth. Let's tell him together. He might actually kill me. He might, but I'll stop him. That's all I ask. They sat there together, planning how to tell her brother that the man he hated was about to become the father of her child. It should have been terrifying. Instead, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. Because this was who they were now. A woman, her obsessed lover, and her overprotective brother. All locked in a permanent triangle that shouldn't work but did. Complicated, dangerous, real. And somehow, against all odds, it was enough. Hakeem took the news exactly as expected, with silent fury, disbelief, and eventually, grudging acceptance. You're keeping it, he said, not a question. Yes, Zainab and Seo Jun said simultaneously. He looked between them, jaw tight. You understand what this means. You're tied to him permanently now. I know. And you're okay with that. I love him, Hakeem. I'm having his baby. Yes, I'm okay with it. She reached across the table, taking his hand. I need you to be okay with it, too. I'm never going to be okay with this. But his hand tightened on hers. But I'll be there, for you, for the baby, because that's what family does. Seo Jun spoke carefully. I know you don't trust me, but I'm asking you to trust that I'll take care of them, both of them. You better. Hakeem's eyes were hard. Because if anything happens to my sister or that baby, there's nowhere you can hide that I won't find you. Understood. They stared at each other, tension crackling between them. Then Hakeem's expression shifted slightly, not softening but accepting. I'm going to be an uncle. Yeah, Zainab said, smiling despite the tears in her eyes. You are. The kid's going to need someone stable in their life. He looked at Seo Jun. Since their father is a criminal and their mother has terrible judgment. Hey, Zainab started. He's not wrong, Seo Jun interrupted. The kid will need you, someone to balance us out. Something passed between them then, not friendship, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. They were bound together now, permanently, through the woman they both loved and the child she was carrying. It wasn't the family any of them had planned for. But it was the family they had. And somehow, that was enough. If you made it this far, thank you for joining Zainab, Seo Jun, and Hakeem on this intense journey through obsession, family, and the complicated spaces where love and control overlap. This story doesn't offer easy answers or simple redemption, just three people learning to coexist in the tension between protection and possession, independence and intimacy. If this story resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about the dynamic between these three characters? Could you understand Zainab's choices, even when they seemed dangerous? And do you think Jun and Hakeem will ever truly reach peace, or will they always be circling each other like wolves? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more dark romance stories that explore the complicated, messy realities of love, power, and choice. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when I upload new content. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.